Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. On today's podcast, our special guest is Bill Taylor, and Bill Taylor is the CEO and owner of some different companies. They all start with DCE, and it's DCE Solar, DCE Services, and DCE Design. Welcome to the show, Bill, and maybe you could tell us about all of your companies and what's happening.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I'm happy to be here with you. Yeah, DCE Solar is basically an engineering company that makes structures for solar. We make rooftop, ground mount, carport structures. We now also distribute a single axis tracker for the utility market. DCE Services actually builds and constructs the solar plants. So that could be on a rooftop, on a Walmart or Target, or a school, or an Amazon distribution center, to small and large utility installations. And then I started DCE Design, which is the electrical design company that actually designs these infrastructures.
Wow. So you have three different companies that do different things. And so it looks like you're all the way from manufacturing through design and to installing these solar systems.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's pretty neat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started DCE Solar in 2009. I saw that energy is going to be a problem. I saw it as a big problem globally. So I wanted to participate. As an entrepreneur, you want to be a problem solver. So I saw that energy was going to be a big demand. And I thought, okay, how do I use my talents and what can I do here? And I come from an engineering background and how to make structures. I came from robotics, automation industries. So I saw where structures would be a good avenue to get into with solar. And we started in North Carolina, and then we moved where we serviced other states that had a solar program. So now we're nationally known. And we've actually delivered products overseas as well. And then in 2019, I saw where projects weren't really being built correctly. So I was like, well, here's an opportunity to take our same mindset of high integrity, do the right thing, have great products, and how do we build these systems? So we started DCE Services in 2019, and it's been going quite well. Like I said, we do rooftops, ground mounts, solving problems for customers. And then a year and a half ago, started DCE Design, where we saw electrical plans weren't being properly designed. And we said, well, let's start DCE Design. And now we actually do the electrical design sets.
So what does the DCE stand for?
It was an acronym for a company that I started with this company early on. That company was called Datweiler. So it was Datweiler Clean Energy. And that was for a short period of time. And then I took over the whole entity.
Okay. I was thinking like Washington, D.C. Okay. And also could be direct current and, all different kinds of things.
Yes.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do manufacturing. Is it manufacturing of racking products, but other things too? Do you manufacture PV or?
Yeah. So we do the engineering design sets. We outsource the fabrication to very loyal fabricators in the United States to actually fabricate our products. So they own our die, or we own the die sets. They're housed in their facility, and they make the shape of our structures.
Great. So they make it here in the United States, and that probably helps with people getting, eligibility for tax credits and all that stuff.
That's correct, yeah. And when I first started the company, many of our competitors were buying overseas coils of steel, would improve their margins because steel overseas was less costly. But I felt obligated to the United States when I started the company. I was like, I'm going to hire here, I'm going to buy here. And I stayed that course, even though I took margin hits against my competitors. I just felt it was the right thing. And lo and behold, my mindset early on became the beneficiary of staying to my core values. And to your point, everything is domestic. And now there's domestic content adders that they get tax breaks.
So it sounds like you have three different companies. I'm assuming they're all incorporated differently. And how do you juggle? It's easy to juggle one thing, I guess, maybe not so easy, but you're juggling three different companies. You're the CEO of all of them. How do you do that? And then how do you make the company grow? And how do you keep things running smoothly and get sleep and all that kind of stuff and, have a life outside of the company or.
Well, when you go into the entrepreneurs are wired differently. We don't get a lot of sleep. You have to be wired to be able to take a lot of risk. You got to take financial concerns. So sleep is hindered by all these requirements. But it really, my mindset is, first of all, when I started the company was I wanted to design it where if I was an employee, that would be the company I would want to work for. So first it started with high respect for the individuals, want to know their personal and professional goals, try to help them meet those goals along the way, and have an enormous amount of autonomy and respect. So that part is culture related and takes a lot of effort. And then the other side of that coin is I wanted to emulate a company that I would want to buy from. They care about me. They give me $1. I got to give them $1, 20, 30 in return of some value. So based on those principles, it becomes a little more easier to manage a business because it's about the people, care about them, and my customers or our customers feel that they're cared for. We're high integrity. We tell you the truth. Sometimes you don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. We believe that's always the right thing to do. And then we'll get repeat business. So yeah, although these are three different companies, they operate with the same cultural background, mindset, and it's worked well. This is not driven monetarily. I'm 100% owner, and we don't have multiple shareholders and have quarterly reports for the stock market. Yeah, so the idea is about the people and really care about the customers. And the money will come. So although there are three different distinct companies, they operate with that mindset, that culture. It works very well.
Great.
So we are continually scaling, but we also very cognizant of the amount of scaling because you can overachieve and also fail at the same time. So we never want to overpromise and underdeliver. So we're very mindful of our growth trajectory. So we never want to jeopardize that service.
Yeah. How do you keep and acquire good employees? Like there's always that balance with not going broke, paying them too much, but you want them to stay with you instead of going to some other company that's going to pay them more.
Yeah. This is a continuous battle that, many customers or many companies are challenged with. And, I've seen many companies overpay for talent, and it's usually doesn't last very long, meaning the company has enormous amount of people, enormous amount of overhead, and they're burning through cash. I've seen this over the lifetime of my business, which is 17 years, where some of them were competitors. They were overpaying for talent. Some of them they stole from us and overpaid. And then later on, they were struggling. And these same individuals wanted to come back to the company. So it's a challenge. It's not for everybody. If, some employees are just after the money and they're with you 2 years, 3 years, and they move on. I understand that's a different mindset. And there's others that, see the culture. They see that they're cared for. They like that environment. They like working with these colleagues. They're all passionate about what our offering to our customers. And those are the individuals that like to stay.
Yeah. One time sort of started a company with a guy overseas and I was working for him and I moved overseas and he's yelling at me and just, I didn't feel like I was treated right. And I remember one of the things that he said, he's like, that's how you have to do to be successful. Like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, who are famous for firing you for any reason and, not being nice to the people that work for them. And those two guys are very successful. Anyway, what I ended up doing was getting out of his car and traffic and quitting just because it's just like, I can't live my life that way. And, he ended up being really successful and making a ton of money. So what do you say to that kind of management style? Yeah.
To me, it's very easy. To
Mhm.
me, it's all goes to your definition of success.
Mhm. Yeah, like making $1 billion.
If your success is purely monetary, then
Mhm.
that's the culture. That's how you have to operate.
Mhm.
If you're okay with a slower trajectory and you're making an impact on people, then my culture works.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I could have that same management style. I would not have felt good about myself. I'm a people person. I like to encourage, motivate, and give people the ability to reach their personal and professional goals. Could have been financially more successful, but I wouldn't have been happy with myself.
Yeah, I have trouble with that too because I'm just naturally trying to be nice, and then people can be working for me and maybe taking advantage, taking too, like not working hard and stuff like that. And I don't put enough fear in them to make them work hard. What would you say, like, what should I do in that kind of situation?
Yeah, to me, that's easy. It can't be too nice. You have to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Too nice is making you exposed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fair is I'm paying you to do this and I expect this in return.
Mm-hmm.
Nice is, hey, could you do this for me? And not tell them you need it by Thursday. They're going to give it to you by the following Friday, and that's okay then. But you have to set the expectations. You always have to set the mutual expectations to make that environment work for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're nice, people will take advantage of it
Yeah.
because you're not leading with expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can just see that there are some types of people that move slow. You could just tell that they're not hard workers. They're always looking for the break. They're always looking for quitting time. And how do you deal with that?
Well, again, you set the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
It's during the interview process. That's where it starts. And we've made mistakes. Sure, we've made mistakes, but I'd say maybe 5%, not high. So you want to know who they are, how they operate. And maybe when you're said, sometimes they're slow, it's maybe because you're not saying the expectations of the guideline. Maybe if
Mm-hmm.
they knew it was Wednesday, they'd be a little more exhilarated.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to create that culture of expectations in the beginning. And sometimes you'll see a different behavior in them. Oh, I didn't know. I thought I had all the time in the world to do this. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to create that environment, and then some levitate towards it. They say, I get it. This is great. You're
Mm-hmm.
inspired. But by leaving everything open, people mostly will just take the least course of resistance and go down that path.
We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Sean White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's Solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show. So what would you tell people when you're hiring them, like what you're expecting and what would make you hire somebody and not somebody else? Like there's a certain type of person that you just know is valuable. They can get twice as much done as somebody else. They're organized and they just have an attitude. It's not always that they're the smartest person, but they're going to get stuff done.
So to your point, I always hire on behavior. It's not about the college. It's not about your life history. It's really about the behavior. How do you treat one another? How do you like to be communicated to? What are your expectations? How would you see yourself in the next 3 years? How do you plan to get there? And we have in the company what we call the 70-30 rule. I am giving you 30% the ability to achieve your goals. The 70% is going to be on you.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me what your goals are, what you like to do, and then try to get more data points to find out who they are. Give me some examples of a challenge that you had and how did you overcome it? Yeah. So you're getting from their history, and then you see, oh, they stayed up all night to solve the problem. Okay, your ambition. Uh-huh. You didn't need your 8 hours sleep. You just told me you stayed up all night to get that done. Okay. So there is some motivation.
Yeah, and I see too with people, there's positive attitudes and negative attitudes. And you can have a group of people that are all positive, and then you bring in one person with complaining about everything, and it can make the whole work environment toxic. And then I guess,
Absolutely.
how do you get rid of people like that?
We just don't tolerate it. It's not tolerable. You share with them, this is
Mhm.
not acceptable. This is what we expect from you. It's documented. We do coaching, counseling, because we want everybody to achieve. We're
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
a sweatshop. We want to give them the ability to achieve. But here we are again, setting expectations. Do you agree with this? Can you do it? Because maybe they say, I can't do that. It's, okay, then let's depart
Mhm.
ways.
Yeah.
So you have those mutual coaching and counseling for hopefully a better outcome. But to your point,
Mhm.
it becomes toxic and it's unacceptable.
So let's see, let's maybe, if you were a coach to the people that are listening that want to keep their job, they want to be the last one standing, they want to be the most valuable person in the company, and of course get raises and things like that. What would you say to those people?
Be an overachiever.
Hmm.
Bring solutions to a problem. Don't just bring problems.
Yeah.
And I always say, we have a problem, bring me 3 solutions. And then I'll pick one and rerun with it. So you just can't keep complaining, can't keep sharing the problems with others without addressing it to the proper person, but also bring a solution. I think we should do this.
Hmm.
Okay, tell me why. Well, how would we get there? Well, what's it going to take? That's important.
Great.
And to weed out during an interview about a person that is not a team player or has a large ego, which is another one I don't appreciate, is when it's all, I did this, I did this, I did this, rather than myself and my team did this. I led this part, they did this part, and just try to decipher how they managed a team or worked in a team environment, because none of us do anything by ourselves. This company did not grow to the success it's at by myself. I was just one of many.
Hmm. So with your solar companies, like the manufacturing, the services, and the design, how did that come about? Did you start one of them and then they just turned into more companies? Why did you make it 3 different companies instead of one, which might be easier for doing paperwork?
Well, you never want to take the easy path. The easy path is not the most practical. But again, I saw DCE Solar 17 years ago. That was the structure part where I saw the need for structures. Then I saw projects weren't being built on time. They took too long and people were financially hurt because of delays. They weren't being built correctly. So I said, okay, here's a solution. And then same thing with the engineering. We were building projects, we're looking at these plans, and we said we would have done it differently because it would have been more efficient for the customer to help us build it faster. So we said, let's start design. So these were all, I'm always looking, I'm very curious why things are the way they are and try to make it better. And then why they're different companies, they're distinct offerings. Like, for instance, the installation company, we don't always just build our products. There are times where clients have relationships with our competitors. We're just building the systems and the customer bought our competitor's product and we're just building it. That's fine.
That's a good way to learn too.
Yeah.
Learn about your customers,
Or the competitors. Yeah.
competitors. Yeah.
And some of the competitors felt like that's why I did it. That was not why I did it. Now we just have a common customer. That's not a problem. But we do see some of their shortcomings of their designs and their delivery execution, why we are truly better on that side too. But that's not the intent. If the customer has that relationship, we honor that, we respect that, and we're not finger pointing. We just build that system.
So the manufacturing and what you're building for these systems that are like, I guess you said you have single axis trackers and other types of structures. But maybe you could tell us about those structures?
The difference, yeah. So a ground mount structure holds a solar panel in a solar farm. You might have seen them down the highway or on the internet.
Everybody's seen them, yeah.
So it's the physical structure. Now, it may appear to be something very simple, There's a lot of engineering that goes behind it because you're in different environments. You have soft soils, you have rock underneath the ground, you have sandy soils. So you have to, first it starts with evaluating the soil conditions. So we have to create a foundation like you would in a house, right? So it all starts there. So you put your diligence in, design a structure that's going to meet, these projects are lifespan is 30 plus years. So it has to be there for the test of time. So it starts with the foundation, and then the structure on top also is different for different environments. We have very high snow loads up in the Northeast. We have high winds in the South. So you have to design a structure to hold that solar panel for the 30 plus years in those different environments. Same thing with our rooftop. The rooftops in different environments. So you have to design around that, and you want to protect the integrity of the solar module for those different environments because they're supposed to be producing power, optimal power for the lifetime of the system. We also have a carport structure, which you may have seen a carport structure in a Walmart parking lot or a hospital. We produce those too with solar on top. It provides shade, but it's also producing power. Like for a hospital, it doesn't have a lot of roof space for solar because it has utilities, air conditioning units, electrical piping, gas piping on the roof. So you don't have a lot of room for solar. So a parking lot's ideal. So you create a carport that holds the solar panels and creating power. And the single axis tracker is one that moves and follows the sun. So those are ideal for certain environments too. So by moving the sun, you're producing optimal power all times of the day. And now we're also getting into, which I didn't share, we're getting into battery technology, where you either add batteries to a solar project, where during the day it's adding power to this battery, and when the sun goes down, the battery is forcing energy onto the grid or to the industrial plant that's using the power.
So there's some changes in the industry. One of them is the PV modules are getting a lot larger.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've heard people complain about that when it gets larger, they're more floppy and then the glass can crack and stuff like that. And then other changes over the same time period really would be all of the energy storage that people are using. How do these things change like your manufacturing or like the designing of your structures?
That's a great point. Yeah. So they are getting larger. You handle these with care. They have a frame around them, most of them, that protects the glass. So that's okay. But we have to design the structure, not like I said, for the environments, but also for the module. When I started, the modules were in the 300 watt range, a single module, and now they're in the 700s. So they've got a lot larger. They're a lot heavier. So you have to build the structure to be able to support it, to protect the glass, and more importantly, the wafers, so they don't get damaged for the 30 years. But you do have to take that in every consideration when you're doing the designs. So every structure is designed for that module, for that snow load, wind speed, and also for the soil conditions.
So when somebody is ordering something that you're manufacturing, do you make it custom for that particular job?
Each one.
Oh, each one.
Yeah, these are not off the shelf. The design is fairly basic, but you have to scale it accordingly for all those conditions. So we have raw steel sitting. We have to design it and then send an order for it to be fabricated. And then it goes right from the facility to that job site.
Oh, awesome. So July 4th is coming up. In fact, this podcast will probably be released after July 4th. Do you have a bunch of people trying to get in for that July 4th, 2026 deadline?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody's, there's a rush. There's a rush for materials.
And so can they pretty much get in there just from writing you a check right now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people writing you checks, you just have to keep running to the bank.
Yeah.
What a problem.
But, Yeah, but we have to store that money because we have to buy the materials at a later time when they need it.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's going in my personal bank account.
Yeah.
It's stored for when they need the rest of the materials.
Okay, great, great. This podcast was brought to you by Rhubarb Pie. Mama's little baby loves rhubarb, rhubarb. Mama's little baby loves rhubarb pie.
Mama's little baby loves rhubarb, rhubarb, bee-bob, a rhubarb, a rhubarb pie. A bee-bob, a rhubarb, a rhubarb pie.
And so when you see these kinds of things like tax credits changing and all that stuff, I guess it'll be like a rush and then a drop and then another rush. I guess would be the end of 2027 to like finish projects and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of good that you're more diversified and you're not just designing and installing the systems, you're also manufacturing and all that. So that probably helps keep things a little more easy going. But you'll probably see your different companies, since you have 3 companies, one of them will do well at one quarter and the other one will do well in another quarter or year.
Well, that's also by design, right? So we offer rooftops. Rooftop, they cycle faster. There's less complication because the roof has already been there. You find out structurally how much it could take so you can quickly deploy on a rooftop. The soils, you have to get permitting. Maybe the community doesn't want solar or they need to understand it before they allow the solar to be in their backyard. So, that has a little more hurdles. The design is always on the front end of a project. So you have to do some kind of design before you go to the utility and then also to the area to get permitting. You need some engineering. So engineering is always in the front end, the electrical engineering. And then, the product follows after, and then the installations even after that. So you're following the whole life cycle of it. But to your point, it's always been cyclical. And then, what the administration does is, not helpful all the time either. We went through many of these cycles, and that's, I get also the uniqueness of DCE is we never overextend ourselves. We don't have a lot of redundancy of employees in-house. Or when there's a downturn, I never want to have to let somebody go because a bad decision was made. So yeah, the employees wear different hats. They're all quite busy, but we have to ride what they call a solar coaster because there is a lot of ups and downs.
And to smooth out the ups and downs, you can just go to a place where there are no tax credits. And I read somewhere that you're doing things in different countries.
That has not been, a pure directive. We were kind of pulled into these different markets. Customers heard of us. They want to use our products. So we have provided materials in different countries, but our primary focus is the U.S. This enormous amount of work here. So, with the tax incentives changing, you have to navigate through this. But why we're in a great spot, and many of us in the solar space, is we need the power. We're about 60 gigawatts short of power with the push of AI and data centers. So if we want to be a true AI leader in this world, we need the power. So fortunately, the demand is there. Unfortunately, our government hasn't been very supportive of solar. But even with that, those headwinds, we're still executing quite effectively in the U.S.
Yeah, great. Yeah, solar is pretty much the least expensive electricity out there, the fastest to scale. And that's exactly what all of these data centers need.
Absolutely. And why the administration fights us, it doesn't make sense to me. But I can't change that. All I could do is do what I can do best to serve this environment.
Great, great. Well, thanks for doing all of these things and making solar more possible and jobs more possible and for giving people good jobs with a nice boss who's not out there just to threaten people. Like some of those bosses. Let's see, are there any other things that you'd like to cover right now?
I wish more companies would operate like us. I'm not saying we're super special, but what I'm saying is I just wish people were more caring about people and not chasing money, because the money will come if you operate in this world as we do. The money comes. So I think the other way is just short-lived, and you make a lot of people's lives miserable, where it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, great.
And when I started the company, I modeled it that way purposely because I had experience where the employees weren't cared for as much, but I also saw them being less productive because they couldn't wait, to your point earlier, they couldn't wait till 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
They're just looking at the clock versus, oh my God, it's already 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, thanks for making that happen. So what size projects are you working on?
We work from anywhere from 1 megawatt to 400 megawatts.
Great.
So, and that's really what's taken us into the large scale utility is a single axis tracker that we are now offering to our customers in the United States. And, we're bidding on some large scale projects, which is exciting. So that's what, when you talk about the ebbs and flows, we have every aspect to offer to a project from small to large.
And who are you looking for as far as customers go?
Our customers are typically an IPP, an independent power producer, or an EPC. Sometimes IPP will mostly they hire an EPC to make selection choices of products, and even on the construction side too, because not all EPCs are the C. They would, I should maybe explain EPCs, engineering, procurement, construction. Many of them just do the E and a P, and they hire us to do the C. So that's mostly, I would say, our clients.
Great. All right. So anybody that wants to get a hold of Bill Taylor and all of his different DCE companies, you can do business with Bill. Where do you want people to find you?
Typically, LinkedIn's easy, or they can go on DCESolar.com, and that'll also take them to DCE Design or DCE Services if that's what they're specifically looking for.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And we'll put all this contact information in the show notes. And it was very great to meet you and talk to you, Bill Taylor.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that.
Okay. Thanks for listening to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. To learn more, go to SolarSEAN.com. If you wanted to get your NABCEP PVIP certification, you just go to that SolarSEAN.com/PVIP, and you can do that with all of those NABCEP initials and acronyms like /ESIP for Energy Storage Installation Professional, or /PVA for the PV Associate. If you want to take a free class, /intro, and you can see how fun it is to learn and make better connections with your brain cells while changing the world at the same time. Woo!